This week, we will look at the iconic Brooklyn Bridge. But not just the bridge. We will also take a walk through the Brooklyn Bridge Park and make a little stop at the Cadman Plaza Park next to the bridge, as there are a few things I would like to show you there as well. What a beauty! And over 140 years later, still giving us New Yorkers memorable moments. I cannot imagine looking at New York skyline without this structure. It is the definition of what I think about when I think about this city. And I'm not just talking about the physical appearance, I'm also talking about its history. One of hardship, but also of perseverance, innovation, and unity. Before the Brooklyn Bridge, Brooklyn and New York, or Manhattan I should say, were two separate cities. East River, that runs between them, was busy with boats and ferries, barges, crossing back and forth delivering people and goods, as trade was a big portion of life itself. Yet this was not always so easy. Weather always made it difficult. For example, thick fog made it dangerous to cross at times, or in some years, in winter months, the water would freeze, either partially or completely, making the journey impossible. Seeing this dilemma, a man by the name of John Roebling stepped in. He came to the United States from Germany in 1831, and 5 years later married, had 6 children, the oldest of which was Washington Augustus Roebling, who finished the Brooklyn Bridge later on. Before taking on the project of the Brooklyn Bridge, John Roebling was already a very well-known engineer. He oversaw a number of bridges, such as the Cincinnati-Covington Bridge, today called Roebling Suspension Bridge, or the Niagara Suspension Bridge, which was a rail bridge connecting Canada and America. Unfortunately, the bridge itself no longer stands, as by 1900s, trains were becoming much heavier and a new bridge had to be installed. Therefore, Roebling already had a strong reputation coming into Brooklyn, and a good mind which was needed, as the bridge had lots of challenges to overcome. And Roebling had to be innovative in order to do so. Unfortunately for Roebling, his foot got crushed by a ferry and he died in 1869. His son, Washington, took over only at the age of 32. However, he too will have a tragedy in trying to finish his father's project. While inspecting one of the towers, he caught the bends, or decompression sickness. It is something that divers need to be very careful about. A quick change in pressure can cause nitrogen bubbles to be released in your bloodstream and tissues, causing damage to the body, and in some cases, even death. It is one of the reasons it is a little bit hard to say exactly how many people died while building the Brooklyn Bridge. Some sources say 25, others 26, 27, even 30, I saw in one of the books. Because some workers got this while working on the bridge and might have died shortly afterwards because of its complications. Washington himself spent the rest of the time overlooking the construction of the bridge from a window in Brooklyn, while his wife, Emily, oversaw the completion of the bridge. It opened in 1883, and at the ceremony was the President of the United States, Chester Arthur. You know, it had to be an amazing moment for the people at that time, since the bridge was opened and completed in 1883, and then just 3 years later, the Statue of Liberty opened. And in 1898, so just 5 years later, the city of Brooklyn and Manhattan merged into one single city, that of Greater New York. Of course, the bridge itself played a role in this and unifying the city into what we have today. When it opened, people had to pay a penny to cross the bridge on foot, and I believe 5 cents if crossing on a horse. But not long after, it was dropped, and today the bridge is free. I love walking across this bridge, and I did so on many occasions, one of which was taking a class on a field trip when I was teaching the history of New York City. Ah, the good old days. At night, I was finishing up my doctorate degree, and during the day, I was already teaching, pretending to know it all. But most of the times, the bridge can be pretty crowded. Therefore, if you want to really experience this bridge in peace and comfort, I suggest anywhere between 2 and 5 a.m. Otherwise, well, let's just say it's a popular location. But if you can, I really recommend this on a nice spring evening or a summer night around 9-10 p.m. walking from Brooklyn side to Manhattan as the sun sets and the lights go on. There's just something magical in it. Trust me, the photos cannot describe it. As you get to that tower on Manhattan side, you will know exactly what I mean. Below the bridge and next to it is the Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is also a special place for me for reasons I will get to maybe in a future video or so. But trust me, it's a must-see if you are in New York City. Since bridges were built across the East River, ships and ferry trade began to slowly lose its importance, and the shoreline of Brooklyn began its slow transformation into neglect and abandoned places, which continued really all the way until like 1990s. But today we have this beautiful park overlooking Manhattan and the Manhattan Bridge, another iconic bridge which opened in 1909 and of which I will show you more of in the future. There are restaurants around the park and lots of seating. Here we have a carousel, Jane's Carousel. It was built in 1922 and it was originally installed in Ohio. Then, after a few years of restoration, it's made its way here. This is Pier 1. You can get beautiful images of the Brooklyn Bridge and Lower Manhattan from here, probably the most popular location. In that white building, you can get really good ice cream to enjoy on your walk. And it's also about here that you also have a historic location of the first ferry service which opened between Brooklyn and Manhattan in the 1640s. Some features like this here serve many purposes. For example, they act as protective barriers during big storms, but also they help with the ecosystem for the fish and various marine life. Sprinklers and water in the summer to cool you off. Always a welcome feature, especially for the kids. On Pier 2, we have the roller skating ring, handball courts, basketball courts, swing for kids, and a pickleball area. Essentially, it's a recreational and sports pier. Then here, Pier 3, is where you can walk and enjoy a little bit more green areas and a sort of a separation from the city itself. this right there is Governor's Island, to which I will take you shortly. The Statue of Liberty in the distance. Staten Island Ferry and Battery Park, which I did a video on. And Lower Manhattan. No furniture. Good I left my IKEA couch at home. I was actually thinking of taking it along. Pier 4, you have a small little beach. And as you walk towards Pier 5, there is a boat marina and a barbecue area. But then Pier 5 itself is really a sports field, mainly used for soccer. But check out these views. Awesome. And finally, Pier 6. It's where you have an awesome playground for the kids, a place to relax, and also a place to grab some food. Walking back through the streets, this neighborhood is called the Brooklyn Heights, of which I want to show you more of in the future. But take a look at this. Some streets have these cool, gas-lit street lamps. Sort of a kickback to the days before electricity. I think it really looks good, and it goes really well with the area. But probably in terms of maintenance and practicality, that's another story. But I want to show you one more place by Brooklyn Bridge, and that is Cadman Plaza Park. There are a lot of courthouses in the vicinity, and it is always very busy, hence it's always a bit difficult to find parking if you do come here by car and you want to enjoy the walk along Brooklyn Bridge. But there are a few interesting things in this park, for instance, this World War II memorial. It was built in 1951, and it honors the Brooklyn Knights, which were killed in World War II. You have these two big statues representing victory and family, or peace and war, very symbolic basically. But one thing that many people do not know is that there is an inside to this memorial with a wall on which over 11,000 names are written of the people who died. Yet it is not open to the public. And I personally never saw it myself. Ever since COVID, I stopped following the news about it, so I do not know if they will open it at one point or another to the public, but it would be interesting to see it. And if ever I get the chance, I will definitely show it to you on this channel. We also have a monument for William Gaynor, who was many things, among which a teacher, attorney, Supreme Court justice, and a mayor of New York City. He was seen as a political figure with a very good reputation and one that was incorruptible. Unfortunately, he was shot in the throat by an ex-city employee. Although he survived, the bullet was stuck in his throat and he passed away 3 years later due to complications from it. The park itself is named after Samuel Parks Cadman. He was a popular Christian radio broadcaster in the 1920s and 30s who was outspoken in his views of anti-Semitism and racial tolerance, someone who preached to respect all life. He has few famous and very wise quotes, one of which says, quote, "A little experience often upsets a lot of theory." I like that, because so far in life I realized that this is many times oh so true. It's one thing to be what we would call book smart, another to be street smart and have the experience. It's actually one of the reasons I wanted to begin this channel as well. Once in a while to leave my books and articles on New York aside and just walk the streets and pay attention to the city around me, to truly experience how life functions and how this city lives, so that I can somewhat combine the knowledge from the books with the knowledge from the streets and hopefully in the process be a better educator. And at the same time, take some of you along with me to share some things I found out or that I think would be of value. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and until next time, stay safe out there.